Thank you very much. So, yes, I'm Thomas from Stockholm, Sweden. I do play the trombone. This is me in the middle. And I think it's a melody in something called Jump for Joy on a concert we did a while back. Never mind. This topic is about the 4 rules of simple design. And how many in here think or have the opinion that you know them? Okay, right. Has anyone heard about Kent Beck? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the rest of you missed the keynote? Okay, right. Simon mentioned him. So he came up with a couple of rules a while back. So which rules are this and why do they actually matter? That's what I'm thinking of today. Well, the first one says the tests should always pass. That's really important because it means that there are tests. And I think he came up with this in the context of unit testing, but that doesn't really matter. So tests should always pass. That's really important. It's also really important that you express intent, and this can also be said as clarity, maximize clarity. It should be easy to understand. That's what it means. We should also avoid duplication for different reasons. One of them is that we have to update it in many places at the same time. That's cumbersome. So we should avoid that. And the final rule is small. What is small? I don't know. It depends. This is something he described in a book called Extreme Programming Explained. The first edition was in 1991, and that's where XP is defined, extreme programming. There's a second edition, and I think he has changed the order of express intent and no duplication in that release. It doesn't really matter. So, the thing here with the test passes, it tells us that there must be tests, otherwise they can't pass. So this is one way of emphasizing the fact that the unit testing in this case, or at least I think that was unit test he meant, is really, really important. We have gone further. We have lots of different testing today being done, but they should pass. If you're a developer and you change something, you had something that worked, now you did something, changes on it, refactoring, for example, that is reordering something, but you're supposed to keep the functionality, and something breaks, well, you know that you broke something and you should revert. So Selenium, well, do we have tests in Selenium? Well, sometimes we do. And these are some cases that I could come up with that are really, really complicated. And it's actually not just me that came up with them. I've got a friend who has been struggling a lot with time zones, for example. He's working with the mobile industry. And when you change from daylight saving to not daylight saving, and vice versa, I know that he spent a couple of weeks in London trying to understand why a telecom operator couldn't invoice that month. So it's important that we know times, for example. And times is something that can be verified very easily. So there could be tests even for Selenium tests. And expressing intent, well, we're talking about test code. And if I can't understand the test code, how am I supposed to understand what's happening, what should work? So expressing intent is very, very important. So what does this one do? I don't know. Or actually I do know because I know what's coming next. But this one tells me nothing. Do something. Okay. With these 3 things. A1, A2, and 17. I know that 17, that's a small random number, that's defined. So that's clear. The rest, I have no idea. This one then, account, A1, A2, and the float. Add and subtract. Okay, it makes it a bit easier to see when you see the implementation. This might be moving funds from an account to another account. But let's call it transfer funds instead. We have a payee, we have a payer, and we have an amount. And we might not just use add with the sign in front of the number, minus or plus. And we don't even see the plus sign because it's implicit. This is a lot easier to understand. And this is what I'm talking about, express intent. Renaming things. Small renames, small things. Rename a variable. Don't call it foo. I call all my variables foo. No, not all of them. To start with. Or when I'm just interested in using my ID to initiate it. But I rename it 10 seconds later because it should be something better. Foo doesn't mean anything. In this case, transfer funds. I don't even have to look at the implementation to be able to have an idea what this one should do. I'm not sure if it works or not, but at least I'm able to understand that what the author thought it should do. So there's a quote, and there's also a blog post that Jason Gorman wrote. The best kind of code clearly tells the story of what the code does. We don't have to guess. And if there's a bug, it doesn't work as we hope it should do, the name could give you a hint on how it should actually work. So naming is very, very important. No duplication. Well, that's easy, isn't it? Just don't copy and paste code. Well, that's the easy part of it. The hard part is this one, duplicating concepts. That's also duplication. And those are really hard to spot. And I'm not sure that there is any tooling that will help you. Finding code that is duplicated, well, a good tool will help you. That's easy to find in the abstract syntax tree, actually, to find sections that are similar. That's doable, easy. Good tool will show you have duplication here and here and here, and therefore you can do something about it. But concepts, that's really hard to find sometimes. So if you don't find any duplication, well, then there might not be a duplication, or it's hidden. You haven't found it yet. Should every possible duplication be avoided? Well, it depends on what you think. But in my opinion, that test passes and that it's clear what we're doing, so clarity is more important. That's very, very important. And there's something called the rule of 3 that my friend Addy has wrote a little bit about. Don't remove duplication until you see it the third time. And I claim that it depends. It depends on when and where and who you are. But if you need a rule, remove it when you see it the third time. I know people who remove it when they see it the second time in open source and third time in commercial software, just to make a difference. And small. What is small? This room is not too small, but it's full, so it could have been a little bit larger, and we could have perhaps fitted a few more people. There's no one standing, so it's not too small. But it all depends on the context. When I was here testing the equipment, this room felt big. Now it's not. These rules is something that you can use. Do you have a single responsibility, or are you doing more than one thing in one method, for example? Well, then if you're doing two things, then it's not small enough. So break it apart. Level of abstraction, what does that mean? Well, if we have a method, it talks about some high-level concepts. I don't know, call that service over there, do a lot of magic, and then return something to me. And then all of a sudden you start fiddling with bits, maybe two different level of abstractions. In that case, break it apart. Okay, it's flickering, hope that doesn't break. These 4 rules should be iterated. There's no way on earth that you can just walk through them once and be happy. Well, it could happen, but I don't think so in most cases. So maybe fixing a name will uncover some duplication. Maybe you want to call two things the same thing. Oh, that's a candidate for duplication. When you remove it, maybe stuff could be expressed a little bit better. And when you do that, it gives you an opportunity to break something into two things that might be smaller, and so forth. So you look at these rules over and over and over and over and over and over again until you get bored and give up. Or not, but you think about them. And just to make sure that it's clear, the clear intent or expressiveness and duplication, you can change the order of them. It doesn't matter. The end result will usually be the same, which is something J.B. Reinsberg wrote about a long time ago. Right. I should have asked how many in here are developers? Okay, so you're utterly bored now. You want to see code. The rest of you are testers. How many testers are there? Quite a few. But there's a third category, which I don't know, product owners? No? There's the third category here, because I saw a few people who didn't raise their hands, and I don't know which category that would be. Never mind. Let's look at the code, because this is boring. And this example is available on GitHub. So the first thing I'm going to do is clone my project, just to make sure that I have the same state that you will have if you want to do this on your own. Okay, so I'm on master, and I would like to be on a branch, which is this branch. And now I'm on that branch. So what I will do now is do some refactoring, and the result will be pushed to GitHub, so you can do the same thing if you want later on. And all I have to do is find my project, which is here. I open up a Gradle project, and in order to run this, all you will need is a JVM installed, no other tooling, because Gradle is very good at supporting you in some cases. And there we go. And it takes some time to think about stuff, such as importing stuff. Now I have a project, and let's see if I can change to presentation mode, and hopefully it will be easy to read for those of you in the back. So this is a fairly standard Java project, which has one test class in it. Looks like this. Are you in the back able to read? And if you are, I can't even see you, so please raise your hands if you are. No, you can't read. Okay, then I'm sorry. I'll try to focus a little bit more, but I can't do that too much, because then we won't see all that we would like to see. So I will have to zoom out a little bit to be able to see the entire test method. And this is it. It's long, it's windy. Anyone has any experience of a test like this? Someone's laughing, no one is raising their hand. Okay, I'll take that as a small yes. The first thing that I want to do is check, does this actually pass? So I'll run this. And we can do it from the development environment, or we can do it from somewhere else. So all of a sudden, I'm searching for a book at Amazon. I'm finding the book, and I placed it in the shopping bag and verified that it was in the shopping bag, which was very fast. So the first rule, test passes. actually worked. Express intent. What do you think about this name? Should by working effectively with legacy code. Is that true? No. Sorry, it's not buying anything. No, that's true. So this one is lying. That's bad. So a better name would be good. And I'm thinking of put working effectively, I hope I spell it correctly, with legacy code in shopping bag. Right. Did I make? Yeah, I don't think I made any major spelling errors.
Why use underscores?
Why do I use underscores instead of camel casing? Well, it's because I have a cataract, and it hurts my eyes. Well, I do have cataract, but yeah, in the camel casing, when I want something this long, it actually hurts my eyes. I want something that I can read. So therefore, I'm breaking the Java convention and using snake casing in this case. Just because it's easy to read. And not everyone agrees on that.
What if Amazon remove this book?
Then I'll phone Michael and buy him from him instead. Yeah. If Amazon removes this book, I'm in trouble. They might not do it the upcoming half hour, 20 minutes, so I don't think that's a big problem. But I'm going to commit this, and I'm going to call it express. Oh, this was small. Better name. And this is partly what I'm talking about. I'm doing small things. I commit them. I make sure that the test passes. Unfortunately, the execution here is so slow, so I'm hesitating to run it again. Okay, so do we have anything else that we would like to do? This string is used in two places, so that's potentially a duplication. And I know that if I extract this one to variable instead, I can reuse it, probably. So let's call this one search string, like that. And now we removed a little bit of duplication. And I don't have to do much more than this. I removed a little bit of duplication, and I also classified what is this piece of what are these words actually used for? Well, they're used for searching. So the question here, should I have string here or not? I don't know. I can change it later if I have to. I'll leave it as that at the moment. And this commit will be removed duplication, extracted search string, like that. Okay, so is this one small? No, not really. The thing here is that this one is really small and it's really unfocused. It does everything. One thing I can do is to make sure that I extract this part to set up somewhere, and all of a sudden the test will be way more focused. The test doesn't really care how we get the browser or a driver in this case, it cares about can we put this thing in the shopping bag. That's what we're interested in. The rest is just technology, probably uninteresting. So let me create a before that I call, in this case, setup. Like this. I need access to this thing, driver, so I'll declare it as a variable, like this. This means that I have to use it as well. And if I just move this here, all of a sudden, this one shrinked a little bit. Sorry, why?
Why not put the WebDriver weight?
I have a plan. And I don't want to... Yeah, well, that is true. I have a plan. But it's also the fact that I don't want to do too much. These refactorings are often some kind of exploration. I'm not sure if this is a good idea. Maybe, maybe not. So maybe I'll do something, maybe I don't. Maybe I'll try it out, and maybe I realize that, oh, this doesn't feel good. So it's a lot about feelings. Am I happy with this? No. This part itches. Okay, so don't do it then. Leave it. The solution might come to you later. You might have to sleep on it. How many in here has experienced that you had a problem and then the day after the solution was clear? Quite a lot of you. That's probably something that a psychologist could explain. I can't, but I've experienced it myself, that when I'm starting something new, it happens that I do it the last thing I do on the day. I know that tomorrow I'll be working on this area. I have no idea what to do. So I scribble something down, and then the day after, it gets a lot easier to start. And maybe the solution is clear to you, and then go for it. And maybe it's not, so sleep on it. In this case, I don't want to do too much. I can do more, but I don't want too much. So let's call this one small, extract setup. Right. One thing that bugs me, or I'm getting, not irritated, but I think it could be better, improved, is the name that exists for the driver in this case. It's not a driver. It is an abstraction for a browser. And I'm very sad that the documentation currently talks about driver. So I prefer to call this one browser, because it is an abstraction for browser. When you do this, you have to be careful. In this case, my development environment wants to rename driver everywhere, even in a string. And that's a bad thing, because that would break stuff. So I'm going to ignore this one and do the refactoring of this reference in the code, like this. So all of a sudden, we're not talking about the driver. Technically, it is a driver, but the abstraction that we are more interested in is the abstraction of a browser. So I changed that everywhere. And let's commit that as well. And let's call it express intent. Better name for the browser abstraction. Yep. And one thing that I noticed that a few colleagues of mine, they don't really think too much about what they write in their commit messages. I try to write a sentence. I try to write not the obvious change name. I would try to express why did I do this change. Because I would like to improve something. Sometimes I see commits like add a target underscore blank, because someone wants, if you click on a link, something should open up in a new window or a new tab. And that's technically correct. But that's not why you did this. You did it because you want this link to show up in a new tab. So say that instead. Tell people that are reading this later why you did something, not what you did. What you did is trivial to see. I can see the diff. I can check the log, and I can see the diff. I can see that it was used to call driver, now it's called browser. So don't say that, say why you did this instead. And a lot of people, they don't pay too much attention to writing why they did something in their commit messages. Please do if you can. I'm sure that there's a kitten being killed somewhere when you write a bad message. And I like kittens, so let's keep them safe. I'm going to skip one example here. One thing that we can see, and which annoys me, is that we're mixing two things here. What are we mixing? We're mixing verification with navigation. And that's a very typical beginner's mistake. I would like to change that. I can't do it in one move because it's too much, but if I'm thinking of it, then I might be able to do something. And let's start small, and let's see if we can extract this search thing. This is perhaps a nice part that could be could live together. And if I do that, and if I do that, and I make sure that I don't include this search string, but this instead, then I can have a method that will do the search, and that's it. That's better. So I'll extract the method. I would like to see what this one says. Get WebDriver wait. That's a bad name. I'll call it search product. I could call it search book, but Amazon sells more than books, so I'll call it search product. And all of a sudden, I have a search product instead that will return WebDriver wait. Nah, that was bad. Let's remove that one. It's probably better that it returns, I don't know, something. Perhaps that. And if I do it like this instead, that's better, because then I can reuse wait, and I will be able to search for product. But I should probably keep this one, so I'll revert this change as well, and do it like this instead. No, I'll keep it like this. I'm not really happy with this, because I'm waiting for something to show up and so forth, but maybe this is good enough. I have been able to change a little bit. So this is a reduction of size. Extract search product.
Wait part of the
Mhm. It is. No. It's true that weight could be part of setup, and I'm thinking of extracting it, but I'm also thinking of waiting of extracting it just a little bit. Because I know, because I tried this out, that if I do something like this, if I extract this perhaps, no, let's do it like this instead. I know that the weight will disappear in a nice way in a few minutes. So if I extract this one instead and call it locate product. And the only reason why I know that weight will disappear is because I've done this before. If I hadn't, I might go for removing it. But removing it too early might not be a good idea, because I might find more interesting things later on. So working in really small steps is something I always recommend. Okay, so I extracted locating product. And is this something I do because I want it to be small, or is it something to do because I want to express intent? I don't know. I find that they sometimes, I can apply both rules at the same time. So I'm not really sure sometimes if it's because I want something to be small or something to be clear. And it doesn't really matter. The end result is what matters. Locate product, like that. Right. If I extract this one as well, I could say have something that actually adds something to the shopping bag. So maybe I can just extract this one and call it add product to shopping bag. Okay, it's shrinking, and I'm heading in a certain direction. Maybe it's time to attack weight. Maybe not. I don't know yet. Oh, let's not do it yet. But let's commit this and say that the reason why I do this is because I want to shrink stuff small and add product to shopping bag. So by applying these small rules step by step, I'm working towards a goal. Unfortunately, I only have 6 minutes left, so I will stop here. But you know what? There is a page object lurking here. If I extract all of these helper methods somewhere to a new class, it's a typical page object, or it could be. So this is one way of finding a page object instead of starting from one. And if you're in a situation where you don't inherit a test that looks like the one we started with, maybe it's a good idea to start with the page object, but maybe not using the page object factory, because that was written by someone who was drunk when he did it, I heard. I had no idea. I just looked at it a few times and realized that I don't understand why I should use it, so I have never used it. And I also think, and I've seen it on the Selenium mailing list, that some people are more or less obsessed. They have to use a page object. They don't understand why. And for me, using a page object is just a matter of abstraction. I want to I want to make life easier for myself, and therefore I work on finding the right abstractions, and that's very, very hard, because when you're very deep into all the details, it's easy to just skip over something. This is obvious. And when you go back a little bit later, it's not obvious. Right, before I continue, let's just check the state right. So I do a git push here, and oh, there's always someone. Thank you very much. But I'm running out of time, so I'm getting a little bit stressed out. So now is the time when I should do some dance up here or something, because this might take 20 seconds. And if I'm unlucky, stuff will break. But you know what? I wasn't. So, yes, I made a mistake. Sorry. I hope you don't think I'm a bad person. I pushed without running the tests. In a production environment, the continuous integration server would have kicked in and saved me or punished me. So these are the rules: test passes, clarity, duplication, and finally, as small as reasonable. So, change the name, extracted setups, better name for the browser abstraction, and so forth. The thing here is that you do this, and then you do it again, and again, and again. You're probably never done. So you have to stop somewhere, sometime. And as usual, this is not a silver bullet. If you thought that was a silver bullet, I'm sorry. Snake oil is sold over there somewhere. It's not here. We don't do that shit. No, for real. This is not a silver bullet. This is a tool that you can use or misuse. Please use it responsibly. Have you heard about this rule? Always leave the code in a better shape than you found it. I'm not sure I agree on Bob Martin's opinions in all cases, or actually I'm sure I don't agree. But this one, definitely, always leave the code in better state. And how do you do that? Well, if you improve the name of a variable, call it index instead of I, for example, stuff was better. And if we do this many times, in really small increments, life will be better. Yeah, I just pushed this example. Let's see if it is available. I hope so. Branches, Selenium conf, yeah, there we go. And it's updated 5 minutes ago. Right. So if you want, you can definitely look at this example. You can continue where I stopped. As I said, there is a page object waiting to be implemented. I'd like to offer my thanks to Johan Hanfrid, who is not just a good bartender, but also a really good friend. And he helped me out with some of my thoughts regarding this presentation. He's not around, but I'd like to give him my thank anyway. I'm Thomas. I've been talking about Selenium and the 4 rules of simple design. And we have 53 seconds for questions, so I don't think we'll do that. I'll be around. If you're interested, I'll be around and you can catch me later. And remember, definition of done, what's that? Working software in production. Unless it is, it's waste. So it's waste until they can use it. Don't forget that. Thank you for coming.